want to talk about this idea that you write about in the book, about the idea of we're always searching, and we're always looking, and we're always moving, and the actual searching is always higher than the actual experience.
Yeah. It's interesting, there's a book out now called Your Money in Your Brain by Jason Zweig, who is an editor for Money Magazine. And they did an intense amount of studies in brain scans over a long period of time, studying the experience of someone about to win money, so the anticipation of winning money in a gambling scenario, versus the person actually winning money in the scenario. And the brain waves and the frontal lobe activity was off the charts when the anticipation of a big win was at play in the scenario, as opposed to when the win actually occurred, where there was about half of the excitement levels and brain activity levels compared to just the anticipation of it. And it really finally proved, theoretically, that our brains are a seeking brain. And in order to keep us seeking, if you go back to, times where we were running around like cavemen, in order to keep us seeking and keep us driving for food and looking for food, the anticipation of the event had to drive us much more than the culmination of the actual event.
What do you mean by that? Give me an example.
In other words, it's freezing cold out. I'm in a cave. I've got my fire. But the anticipation of going out and hunting that bear and the thrill of that adventure was so overwhelming and exciting for people that it drove them out of the cave and it got them to hunt down, whatever the woolly mammoth, whatever it was at the time that would ultimately feed the family. But the kill, the actual culmination of the event, was never as satisfying. And then it sets up this paradox, or I call it a feedback loop. So I'll give you an example in modern day times to make it more plain. You decide that you're going to go out and buy a new car. And you look around at all the models that are out there and you find one that you like and you decide you're going to buy a Honda Accord. And you start getting really excited about going to the showroom, looking at the Honda, going online, getting the prices, looking at all the different things that you could add on to the car. And your excitement's building and building and building. And you finally go down and you buy the car and you drive it off the lot. And by about a week later, all of that excitement that was built up into buying the car has disappeared. And it's just a car, and you're just driving it every day. And because the anticipation was so high and the culmination was not as high, it sets up our brains to immediately start seeking the next thing. Because our brains are hardwired to get more excitement from the seeking than from the actual culmination of the event. If you got the car and it was complete joy and wonderment for the next couple of years driving the car, there would be actually a lot more long-term peace and satisfaction out of that than of just the few weeks that led up to the actual buying of the car being the excitement. So we get caught up in this loop. We're always desiring something, and we're actually addicted to the desiring. We're not actually addicted to the result of the desire. So it's like someone that does drugs. They have a really big feed, a really big high off of getting the drug, and they do the drug, and after they've done the drug, there's a lull, which sets them up to the next time have to do more drugs, higher doses, to try to get the same high that they got the first time. And that plays through everything that we do in life for a lot of people.
So from your standpoint, how does the individual get, well, how do you, in your life, how do you get away from the addiction of desire?
So it never goes away completely because it's a relationship to the mind. It's like the ego.
And the law of scarcity in economics is very similar.
Yeah. So the ego is hardwired for it. But what you start to realize is that you put your attention on things that are going on. So you put your attention on wanting to do a TV show. You put your attention on wanting to make money in the stock market. You put your attention on whatever.
That didn't work out very well.
Not the past few months. So you put your attention on whatever you want, and the ego is always seeking. And if you put your attention on that seeking, then you get caught up in it. It's being outwardly focused rather than inwardly focused. So we have this idea that, or we feel this emptiness inside. Because what happens is you desire something, you get it, and then you feel a moment of satisfaction. And we've misconstrued that moment of satisfaction. We think that that moment of satisfaction is from the getting, and actually that moment of satisfaction is because for a brief moment you're not desiring the next thing yet. It's this actual feedback loop. So because we think that that moment of satisfaction is with the acquired thing that we got from the outside world, whether it's love or sex or money or fame or power or whatever it might be, we get hooked on, because the feeling goes away right away. So you get this moment of satisfaction, and then all of a sudden that feeling goes away, and then you're desiring something again. And you think that, okay, I had a moment of satisfaction when I got that thing. If I get it again,
right,
or get more of it, I'll maybe extend that moment of satisfaction and find this plateau of peace, or this panacea that we're all looking for, where we feel fulfilled and peaceful all the time. So we get hooked on desiring and acquiring things outside of ourselves. And when you step back and really look at this loop, you realize that that moment of satisfaction occurs in the moment when you're not desiring anything. So you have to try to learn to separate your attention from acquiring outside things to expressing things that are of inner nature, expressing your own creativity, your own expression. You know, you doing this radio show is something that you do completely. TV show, sorry.
They see you.
There are people here? Wait. So you doing this TV show is an act of love.
Right.
And you probably get much more joy out of doing this TV show than you do out of the job that you get paid money for, which allows you to acquire a lot of the things that you think you need to be happy.
Right.
So it actually costs nothing. Well, maybe it costs a little money for studio time, but it costs very little for you to find inner satisfaction in this moment, because you're expressing what is coming from inside you, and you're doing it out of love, and you're doing it out of giving to the world. And that's what we have to teach our children to refocus on.
Well, first we have to teach ourselves, and the best
Yes.
way we can teach anyone is by example, as you know.
Yes.